How do you deal with unwanted plus ones to your event? I never expected my own family to rudely invite not just one but 7 extra guests without letting me know. To give context, I come from an Asian country where having big weddings is the norm. However, this wedding was planned on a tight budget, so we kept the guest list strictly to those close to us. The wedding ceremony went by smoothly, but the reception was an absolute mess from start to end because of my aunt and her extras. When they arrived early to the reception, they stole a reserved table from my family's side and fought the wedding planner, telling her that they were honored elders and could say whether or not they were on the list. The wedding planner was fortunately very kind and worked hard to find an additional table and chairs for others. While they sat there waiting for food, they openly gossiped about my friends and family in a voice loud enough for them to hear, saying things like, "Look at how ugly the dresses are. I can't believe some of the men here are wearing jeans. It goes to show that you can't buy class." They laughed, clinking their glasses of wine in agreement. One of them even added that my husband's bloodline is lucky to have ours, pointing out that he was from another country with darker skin. Other guests moved their seats further away, tired of all the negativity. When the catering was ready, my aunt and the extras cut the line for food, saying that it was the seniors' right to skip in line because their poor bodies couldn't handle it. Our friends and family didn't really mind it until they started complaining about how each food looked either too bland or too different from what they were used to, fighting the caterers and calling them incompetent. My aunt sighed and shouted how the food at her daughter's wedding was so much better. Throughout the reception, they continued leaving snarky comments about my reception dress and the program, calling everyone incompetent and disappointing. The other guests slowly got tired of their nonsense and excused themselves from the reception early. I eventually noticed that so few people remained when it had only been an hour in, and my maid of honor explained how my aunt's friends pushed everyone away. The anger seriously built up the more I heard about the things they had been saying and doing behind our backs. My blood was absolutely boiling, and I felt like doing something completely reckless to get back at them. I grabbed the microphone and gathered everyone's attention, announcing that I was so thankful that my aunt and her friends showed up. They told me how since they were our elders, they wanted to pay for the entire wedding reception on my behalf. Everyone clapped along, surprised by the news, especially given how openly rude those guests had been all evening. My aunt and the extras looked so uncomfortable being put on the spot but gave an awkward bow. I called up my aunt for a small speech, and she stiffly walked over to retrieve the microphone. My aunt faked a humble laugh and smiled, saying, "Of course, anything for my favorite niece." My husband happily jumped in on the fun and thanked them for paying for our upcoming honeymoon as well. It took all my strength to hold in a laugh. We all clapped once more, and I returned the attention back to the dance floor. I glanced over at their table, and their faces appeared angrier than ever. For the rest of the night, they stayed in their seats quietly while guests walked over, complimenting and thanking them for being so generous. I called over the wedding planner and explained how I wanted her to later get their credit cards and pretend to have them pay for the reception and catering, just as I announced earlier. She grinned and agreed to the plan. When the aunt and friends tried to leave, the building's security and wedding planner stopped them, handing them a very large bill. They angrily argued back, explaining that they were just my aunt's guests. One of them even mentioned that she didn't even know me. My husband and I giggled on the side, overhearing it all while pretending to be busy eating our wedding cake. The group slowly turned on each other. "You're richer than I am, so you do it." "No way, I have bills to pay later, and you invited me here." Eventually, they pressured my aunt to pay it all, saying it was her idea in the first place. She rolled her eyes and angrily snatched their bags, pulling out credit cards from each of their wallets except her own. She shoved it over to the wedding planner and told her friends to get over themselves and act like high-class citizens. The planner walked by and snuck a thumbs up, pretending to swipe the cards. She walked back to hand back the cards. They flipped off my aunt and left the venue together, arguing and saying the most horrible things about each other. My husband burst into laughter and complimented my plan, asking, "Do you think they would go to our baby shower too?"